Alright everyone, how are we doing? Today I'm looking at my Hornby Ruston, and specifically how I weathered it. At the end there'll be a bit of Heapton history on it, but to start with we'll do the weathering. But in order to get an understanding of how I weathered it, we need to go back, pretty much back to the very start. Did you notice that it was going forwards instead of back? Anyway, this is how it sat before. As you can see, it was the Ministry of Defence one, the army liveried one. I did strip the army livery off it pretty much as soon as I got it, just with a bit of white spirit, a cocktail stick and a bit of elbow grease. Took it off really nicely. And yeah, that's kind of how it sat, just in a plain green. You can see it displayed there on what I'm now going to call a nano layout. That I did a video on previously. That'll be linked in the description if you want to see how I did that. But yeah, it kind of sat running on that and not really doing much else, sitting in the display cabinet as well. And quite frankly, it needed to be weathered. I've been really inspired by things I'd seen on RM Web and on YouTube, so I thought I may as well get my weathering pots out, go out to the shed and see what I could do. So why don't we get into that? Yeah, the reason why this project actually happened was, if you look at the front there, some of the hazard stripes come away where I tried to stick a Ruston nameplate with it. Tell me extra thin cement, don't do it. It strips the decals away. I should have known. Previously I've used PVA to stick nameplates on and things. For some reason I didn't think I needed to on this one. But it did mean the catalyst for this project was born. Without the hazard stripes I thought I'd ruined it. But instead I tried to lean into it, tried to be a bit like a military modeller where they incorporate mistakes into the final model. And it kind of acted as a catalyst for this whole project. You can see here I'm building up layers of rust. I'm using a Humbrol rust powder. I'm also using a Tamiya one and also Typhus Corrosion, which is a Citadel paint which is textured. I used that on the sole bar, which you can see there. You can also see that I'm beginning to use the gunmetal and the silver from that Tamiya set. I forgot what Tamiya set it is, weathering set. But yeah, you can see I'm just trying to build the layers up, build different tones into it. The hazard stripes I really like on the back here, and I really like the streaking effect that I got with the rust coming through there. You can see here again the sole bar is different on either side. I'm very aware that normally when I weather stuff I get stuff that's mirrored, and I don't really like that, and I don't really know why I do it. So I tried to push the boat out with this, try to make it different. You can also see that the nameplate Abel's stuck on there with PVA, which is what I should have done from the start. You can see the front that I mentioned. The top bit I took off intentionally, unintentionally. The sides I did take off intentionally, just trying to lean into that effect again. You can see here I'm really dabbling into the rust here. Now, this really reminded me of like an early preservation locomotive. Just about running, but quite a bit rusty on the outside, waiting its turn in the restoration works. And I really like this. You can see the streaking that I mentioned earlier as well. I really liked it. I tried to think about where the water would gather, and like on pictures that I've seen of Rustons, but not only of Rustons, but also of other early diesels, where water gathered and as such where rust began. I did put it on Facebook, these pictures, because I did feel like it was missing something, and a lot of people suggested adding a wash. Now you can see I'm adding a wash. It has already been added here. It was a grey wash, but you can also see here I'm adding something to around the grills. Now this is because I'm quite into class 20s and things like that, and the grills around class 20s are religiously filthy, and I wanted to represent that on this locomotive. Here's the black wash that I added. It's a Citadel paint that's obviously heavily watered down. I believe it's called Null Oil. But yeah, you can see it was there, and then now I've wiped it off with the cotton bud. I still felt like it was missing something, so this would be its third wash they'll be having after this. But yeah, you can see it's picked out some of the details. I kind of wanted it to go a little bit thicker. I quite like the way it was around the handrails there. You can see here it's had its second coat. It's not particularly neat the way that I apply it, just because it's going to be taking off the cotton bud in it, so there's no need to be particularly neat. And there it is, with the a lot of the null oil taken off there. You can see here on the back it does look filthy, and I can't lie, I really like that effect. But I took it off eventually. You can see here that I'm working on the wheels. That's because I forgot them and they stuck out like a sore thumb. So just some grey paint there. I believe it's from an airbrush kit, actually, that was. Again, with the null oil gone round it. I'm really liking the null oil. It really ties things together. You can see. And there it is, sitting on my hand. Mostly complete, missing its buffers. But yeah, I'm beginning to take off the blue tack that obviously I was using to protect the glazing. Now eventually I did just give the glazing a coat in the null oil, just to give it that dirtier look. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how it's come out. You can see it's sitting on the turntable at the moment, and it's looking quite good, I like to think. It's by no means perfect, and eventually I'll come back to it. I really want to work on the exhaust area, but I just couldn't get that right. So some more experimenting needed on that. But yeah, you can see it sitting on the turntable, and it's sitting quite pretty. As I say, it's by no means finished. I like to readdress the roof as well. It's not looking brilliant, I don't think. The little patches of rust, I think, look quite cool, but I think I could do with thoroughly thinking them through a little bit more. But yeah, you can see the buffers are sitting quite good on it. I painted them out of silver into black and then gave them a grey splodge on the front. I've seen a lot of preserved Rustons have that, so I thought it'd be a nice little feature to have on mine. And yeah, you can see there, I like to think it's quite good. You can spy that there's a little toolbox there as well, actually, that I stuck on towards the latter stages. Now, this is actually a Train Crash Models kit. Link in the description for it as I run it through the podcast that I do with my good friend Luke Noble, who actually makes the kits, so they're competently put together. They're very well put together, in fairness to him. But yeah, I added mine in a different colour, not only to give it that bit more of an industrial look, but also because I wanted it to be in a different condition to the locomotive. Now, some of the best weathering jobs I've seen for the likes of Tim Shackleton and the like have a really clean part of a locomotive, whether that be a tender or cab side, to show that it's been in the works recently, but the rest of it's quite dirty. It makes it visually very interesting. And I thought, what easier way to do that with this locomotive than just stick a toolbox on with a different colour and don't really weather it. It's a blue. It did have a couple of coats of silver paint really far away sprayed to it just to give it a metallic tinge. But yeah, it's just a representative toolkit that's been added at a later date. And as I mentioned, the kit is in the description below. So yeah, go check it out if you like. They're really, really nice little kits and very affordable too. Anyway, that's enough of the plug. I'll get into Heapton history now. Originally built in 1947, the locomotive that went on to become Able was originally sold to a northeastern based factory, specifically in Newcastle upon Tyne. It ran goods between the BR main line and the factory to the BR main line. Now in 1955, as that factory was being closed down, she was sold on to a Liverpool factory, where it ran goods again between the BR main line and the factory, but also out onto the docklands as well, which meant it had quite a little varied life. However, in 1971 that factory also closed, and by that point she'd fallen out of use. Larger locomotives such as the BR Class 08 and also Ruston's own 07s left the little Ruston left in a cupboard. It was left in a shelter. Not particularly looked after. It did get turned over every now and again, so it did run when it came to be sold. It was sold on to a factory in the Midlands that were making tyres. Now they needed a locomotive that ran fast. Their own locomotive, which was a Planet, had recently caught fire and was not deemed economically viable to repair. As such, the little Ruston fit in perfectly. It handled everything that the factory could throw at it and was very, very useful. In 1975, it was named Able, after the company's founder during the 100th year celebrations of the company. Unfortunately, in 1987, that factory closed as well, and as such, Able was scrapped. Now, the real reason for it being called Able is not anything religious or anything like that. It's just I quite like the Oasis song, I guess God Thinks I'm Able. So yeah. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section below. If you didn't, let us know. If there's any way that can improve the modelling or these videos, again, let me know. And yeah, I do a podcast with my good friend Luke Noble, which means they aren't half as boring as this, so that'll be linked in the description. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next one where I'll be working on something a little bit bigger. Thank you very much. Bye.